Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 24th SF Doc Fest. Welcome. I'm Sarah Marie Flores. I curate the shorts for the program. The festival will be taking place May 29th through June 8th, virtually on the digital festival, which you're all watching right now, as well as in person at the Roxy and Vogue Theaters in San Francisco. I'm so excited to be joined today with some filmmakers from our pop culture block of films. Welcome, filmmakers. I would love to just kick things off by having you introduce yourself, tell us what film you're here with, what you did on the film, and what the genesis of the story was for you. And we'll start off with Carrie. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to screen at the Documentary Film Festival. Um, my documentary was called The Collector, and I was the producer and co-director. So I kind of did a little bit of everything. And I got that idea for this documentary in a really weird way. Like, I found out about this collector through Hamilton Meserve, who lives in Maine, which is where the documentary was shot. And he is the son of the Wicked Witch of the West. So he is Margaret Hamilton's son. And they bought an island together in Maine many years ago. So I wanted to do a documentary about that. But he's, as you can guess, is a little bit like over Wizard of Oz after listening to that for 80, I think he's 86 years old. So he kind of put me on to this collector. He's like, did you know that there's also a collector who lives in Maine, just like an hour from here, who has the world's largest private collection of Wizard of Oz memorabilia? And so that is how I kind of got started on this journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. John, hey, what's up?
Hi.
Tell us about your film.
Again, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for having my film in the festival. I'm very excited to be a part of it. My film is Happyfoot Sad Story. I am the director and editor of it. And I first heard about it. Well, I've always kind of known about the Happyfoot Sad Foot sign. I live in LA. I lived in Echo Park, which is where the neighborhood where the sign was. And, basically I heard that the sign was coming down, and then I saw on my friend's social media a post where he detailed this standoff that happened when they were trying to take it down. And as soon as I read that, I was like, that's so dramatic. It's civic activism. It's like this weird niche thing. And it's just came together in my mind as a documentary. I was like, I gotta make it. So I made it.
It's awesome. Thank you. Carrie, I would love to hear just more about how you all uh approach the telling this story. How did you get to know Willard? Like, what was that process like of like having him invite you into his life?
Well, once I learned about him through Hamilton, I called him up. I can't remember how I got his contact information, to be honest, but I stalked him a little bit, and I was able to get him on Zoom and tell him what I wanted to do. And luckily, he's in love with the Wizard of Oz, so he really wanted to talk about it. And so then I ended up going to his place and found out that there really was an interesting story there because it's not just about the stuff, and I don't think the documentary is about the stuff necessarily. It's sort of about why someone wants to collect the world's largest private collection of Wizard of Oz memorabilia and what kind of personality that takes and how he became that way, right? And so his journey started when he was 5 years old. And he also collected everything. I mean, he has warehouses full of things, and he owns the hourglass from The Wizard of Oz and one of Dorothy's dresses. I mean, he has a legit collection, but that was just like the tip of the iceberg. But learning who he was and why he collects these things and sort of how he came to be that way, because it turns out, and I didn't know this when I called him, but he actually had moved from LA. He lived there for 35 years and he had produced these massive movies. I wasn't aware of any of that when I first called him. And I'm glad I wasn't. I probably would have been too nervous to call him. But yeah, that's sort of how that ball got rolling.
Cool, 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 cool. Thank you so much. John, just to jump back over to you, I mean, I also am in LA. I feel like aside from just this being a great story about community, it also really talks about however shifting a lot of neighborhoods can be here. And I think that's relatable to folks in a lot of places, especially for our audiences in San Francisco, right? Like, who gets to dictate what matters culturally and who should have like access to preserving that versus like exploiting it? And that's something that like really struck me. Like, I personally like appreciate Silver Lake. I do not voluntarily step foot in the neighborhood because I don't want to get trampled by a yoga mom. Um, but like, what was your approach to telling the story? Because you really almost take like an investigative like approach to it,
Oh,
and like exposing this. So like, how was that for you and like constructing the story around this and like accessing the community behind it?
well, I mean, first of all, in terms of accessing the community, I just wanted to highlight the community. I love like that LA and specifically this area is such an artistic place. And yes, there are yoga moms, but there are lots of great artists. And, I all the music I got were from LA musicians as well, because I was just like, this is about a community coming together, and the film should reflect that. And in terms of how I constructed the story, I mean, first of all, I wanted it to be accessible to an audience that didn't live in the area and knew nothing about the Happy Foot sign, because I don't feel like it would have a huge audience if that didn't work. So I kind of wanted to collect all the people who were obsessed with it and show their passion and have that come across and be like, oh, if these people care about it, then maybe I, as an audience member, should too. And then, you kind of can sneak in that story of the gentrification and like who owns the neighborhood, like, and put it in this package of this like, you know, fun community curio, I guess.
Cool. Thank you so much. Carrie, can you just talk a little bit more about kind of this broader question of obsession versus collection? Did working on this film kind of make you think about that in a different way? Or did you find that Willard was accessing different things that maybe he hadn't thought about throughout the course of the filmmaking process?
It definitely made me think about it because I don't collect anything. And I've always thought it was strange when people do, it's just a very foreign concept to me. I don't like to have a lot of stuff. And so someone who has literally millions of things that need to be cataloged and is collecting more every day, like that was just such a foreign concept to me. But the big takeaway that I had, and I don't know about anybody else, hopefully everyone gets something different out of it. But I was fascinated by the idea that something that sparks your imagination when you're very small. So he saw The Wizard of Oz when he was like 5 years old. It changed the entire trajectory of his life. Like something about that movie affected him to the point of where he became a movie producer and a collector of Wizard of Oz and many other things, starting from that moment when he saw that movie. And so just thinking about the effect that movies and anything creative really, I mean, it can really change people's lives. If he hadn't seen that movie when he was 5 years old, like would he have been a massive collector and a movie producer? Like maybe, but probably not. So that just fascinated me.
That's so cool. Thank you so much. John, just to jump back over to you, like, what was your experience working with the community and the artists? Like, did you find new things about the story as you were going, or how did that help shape how you constructed your film?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that was probably the most fun part, was talking with everyone. It's like the reason that I love being a documentarian is like you get to, talk to people that you wouldn't get a chance to talk to normally. And like the discussions about gentrification that we had off camera and like how the neighborhood changed and what we want a neighborhood to be really informed how the film was shaped in the edit, and just because I wanted it to be true to who everyone was.
That's so cool. Well, it really comes through.
Thank you.
Um, awesome. Well, thank you both for taking the time to join us today. We're so glad to have you here. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the films, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really great.